Today we are going to go into the next part of our series of videos focused on SaaS Google Ads. So if you're a SaaS company or someone working on a SaaS company and you're trying to run Google Ads, then great, you found the right place. We are going to focus on a really important part of Google, which is actually knowing what the fuck is going on. You've made your search campaign, you've started to make some optimizations, but all of this is much more difficult if you just let Google leave the columns as they are. There is a huge amount of data that is hidden within the world of Google Ads, which generally most people do not ever see. And also, if you understand that data, it lets you have so much more ability to make good decisions and optimize more intelligently towards success. So today we're going to dig into those. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you what you start with, what you should be having, and how to get there. Before we continue, my name is Max Sinclair. I run this channel to help people run ads because it's a topic I enjoy, and I hate to see people wasting their money in the world of Google. The big giant of Google makes enough money already. So this is why we do it. This is a big series. So if you're interested in this topic, please do subscribe and follow along for the rest of these videos. So let's start with what you get when you first set up your account within Google Ads. This is not going to be exactly it, but it's pretty close. So they really show you a very minimal amount of information. So you get things like the amount of budget you're spending, you get the status, which is kind of where they tell you about things going on, clicks, impressions, click-through rates, interaction rates, etc. And then they tell you the cost, cost per conversion, conversion rate, conversions. Those are some of the best ones. And then an optimization score and your bidding strategy. This seems like a good amount already, but it's actually only scratching the surface. It's really trying to show you some information to make you feel like you can do some optimizations and be okay with it. But Google, in my opinion, is actually purposefully hiding quite a lot of information too, because it doesn't want you to know all of this stuff. Because if you did, you might change your opinion and make some decisions which are not in Google's interests, like trying to basically restrict how it spends its money. Like it wants to be able to spend your money however it wants to spend its money. So this is where we start, and then let's move into where we want to get to. So this particular account has had things set up much better. So I have got a Google preset columns document, a spreadsheet, which has all of the columns perfectly set up for a SaaS brand. So if you'd like that, leave a comment below and I will happily send that to you. And it makes it much easier to get all of this done real quick and easy. But we're going to go through it today in this video as well. So firstly, of course, you have the campaign's name. You then have the budget. Of course, budget is extremely important to be aware of all the time, that making sure that you set that correctly. I'm going to cover each of these columns in like somewhat detail, but remember also, you can just hover over any of their names and it will literally tell you what it is. So the budget, for example, the column shows your campaign's daily budget. If the campaign draws from a shared budget, then the amount in this column reflects the entire shared budget. So this always gives you some interesting insights into each of these things. Status. So this column shows you if your campaign can run. It also gives you various forms of statuses, like, for example, limited by budget, which is not necessarily a problem, but it is an interesting piece of information. Limiting by bid strategy, which is where the bid strategy is somehow stopping you from getting more. And there's all sorts of others that might show which are more serious. Then we've got campaign type. Like, that's okay to have here. It's not really a big deal too much because it's kind of obvious you have a search campaign. This little magnifying glass here is the signal that you've got a search campaign as well. You might have others, like a little display icon is a signal that you've got the display network switched on. Then what we're really trying to do with these columns is create a funnel from the point of someone discovering you by seeing you, which is an impression, all the way through to actually purchasing your product. So this is you want to get all of this covered from start to finish. And then it also lets you see, where is the problem? So are we, having people drop off right from the point of impression to click. Like, is nobody clicking on you? That's a really important thing to know. But maybe that's really good. And so, okay, we get to the next stage. Why is there nobody actually making going ahead on a sign up for an account with your business? Okay, that's the problem. And then we move through all the way to the point of purchase, and that lets us kind of diagnose where the problems are as marketers when we're running ads on our business. So this is how we get it set up. So we can see we have impressions, and just to be clear, an impression is when someone sees your ad. So when someone opens up a new search and there's an ad of yours showing, that's an impression. And then, of course, a click is when they click on one of your ads. And the good thing about Google is that that's the only point you pay. So you don't pay for any of these impressions. You pay for just the clicks. And then the CPC is, of course, the average cost you're spending. So normally I would put cost over here, to be fair. So the cost divided by the clicks. So you're essentially saying, how many clicks are you getting for the cost of spend? And so in this case, it's €1.16 per click. The only thing to say on that is, like, of course, it varies massively what an average CPC is. Don't think about it too much. CPC is less important than you think it is, because a good click is normally much more expensive. Like if someone typed in average, if someone typed in paid ads agency, well, that's going to be a very expensive click, but they're very good people to get to my business. And so I'm more happy to spend on that. Whereas paid ads will be much cheaper of a click, but it'll be much worse quality. And we actually ran some research on this, and generally higher CPC keywords are actually genuinely better return on investment than cheaper. I'll be doing a video about that in the future. So moving on, we have click-through rate, which is the click-through from impression to click. So like I said, if that's very important, that if that's low, like, say if you're below 5%, it starts to become a signal that maybe the targeting is not so good, or the ad that you're showing is not so good. If you've got 10% or up, that's like generally a really good signal. Brand search is always much higher because, of course, it's someone searching for the name of your company already. And so in that situation, you should get a very good click-through rate because it's, of course, someone who already knows you and is trying to find you. Interactions can sometimes confuse people, but essentially it's the same as clicks in most cases, but interactions can mean other things. So for example, if you're doing videos, you might have views, you might have all sorts of other metrics. And so interactions can vary depending on what kind of campaign you're running. But if you're just doing search campaigns, you only really need clicks. And most of the time, these two will be the same. As you can see, it says 951, 951. Interaction rate is click-through rate, which is 36%, 36%. We have average cost, which is the same as average CPC. And then we have cost, which is, of course, very important to have. In the case of SaaS, or most businesses, actually in e-commerce, for example, you might have a purchase of a product and you might get lots of purchases regularly. And so actually all you really need to track is purchases. Like, you might not really care that much about add to baskets and initiate checkouts because you're getting loads of purchases all the time, because it only costs maybe £20 per purchase and you've got 5K every month. And so loads of purchases coming through. But in the case of SaaS, you might not actually get that many people buying your product, and it's a more complicated buying cycle. You have people sign up for a free trial, or maybe to get access, or to book a demo of some kind, and that's your sign up, but you don't make any money then. And then you might have a qualified lead, which is where you confirm that this was a good sign up or a good demo booking or otherwise. And then you have a sales qualified lead, which is another nuance there. And then you get the purchase. And so you need to follow all of this journey. And so the conversions column is kind of just sticking all of that together. It's all primary conversions within a Google Ads account. And so it is helpful as a kind of more basic version of this, but it's not really helpful because that will count signups plus qualified plus purchases all into one big primary conversions thing, if you have it all set as primary, to be clear. And actually, I would generally recommend that. And so this does cause you problems if you're just looking at that conversions column, which Google normally does give you in that scenario. So actually, quite often what I'm doing is I'm moving those conversion rate columns to the end of the sequence of columns. And then instead, what we're going to do is create custom columns. So you can see in this account, this is pretty close to exactly what I like to have. It's a little bit different in this case because they have some slight nuances, like every SaaS does, but it gives you a good idea. So we have the sign up up column. So this is a custom column, which is focused on people who have signed up for a new account. And then we have the cost per sign up here. And then we would also potentially have the sign up conversion rate, which is another column. And then we have qualified lead. We have had someone sign up and then it was a good qualified sign up. So this is a real business that is potentially going to buy rather than some spam sign up, because you get a lot of spam in all forms of marketing. So trying to clear that away is really important. And then the same cost per qualified, and then you might have qualified conversion rate as well. And in this case, they even have a different qualified thing, which we're tracking here about onboarding, which I'm not going to go over here. And even like Chrome extension downloads, which they have. And then we have purchases, which is the final step. So people who have actually gone ahead and bought something. What is the cost per purchase, which is also really important to understand, the value, all these other nice metrics you can have. You can see I've got that conversions column and conversion value, etc., which to be honest, I just don't care about in this case. So all of these additional columns are custom columns. So I'm about to go into the setup part. But if we go to, I'm just going to quickly jump over to that for a second. If I go to modify columns and we go down, there's this bit here which says custom columns. And you can see all of these are already set up. And if I hit plus custom columns, you literally can create any column you like. So this is where you're going to do these custom things to your business, like signups instead of just conversions, or qualified leads, or marketing qualified leads, or SQLs, sales qualified leads, or purchases, etc. So this is where we would set up those custom columns, just to skip back to that, so that makes sense for you. So the next bit to cover is search impression share. I've just gone down to ad groups at this point because the data wasn't showing. So search impression share is something that you never get to see when you work with Google Ads unless you add it yourself in this process. So search impression share is the impressions that you've received on the search network divided by the estimated number of impressions that you are eligible to receive. And so what you have to think about is, say I have a keyword which is paid ads agency SaaS as a keyword. And so there is only going to be so many of those searches each day. And so let's just say there was 1,000. And so let's say we get to show up for 700 of those each day. Well, then we would be roughly 70% search impression share. And so the reason that you don't get everything is of course because you're limited, and you're limited by either the fact that you're not liked by Google, so you just have a bad quality score. Google, like let's just say I have a really bad ad and no one ever wants to click on it because it's really badly written. And so Google recognizes this, and it doesn't like to show bad ads to users. And so it will make it harder for you to show up. Or also maybe you've limited your bidding to have a max CPC, cost per click, to be quite low. And so again, a lot of the clicks that are available and attention available for that particular keyword are just too expensive for what you're allowing Google to do. And so you're going to lose there. Or maybe your budget is £10 a day and there's like £1,000 a day worth of clicks available. And so again, you're limited. And so search impression share gives you this perspective to say, okay, if it's essentially like really low, there's lots more of the market available. So if you increase your budget or increase your bids or just make better ads and get better targeted with your ads and the experience your customers are having, then you can get a lot more coming in. And so there's a lot more volume available. It's also a signal about how kind of open your kind of targeting is. So if I use broad match keywords, your search impression share will be much lower. It'll be like probably less than 10%. Like they don't show you numbers below 10%. If you use broad match, because it's so broad that you can show up for so many things, even if you have just one keyword. Whereas if you're using exact match, you're very tight. It's a very niche keyword, like say SaaS paid media agency would be super niche if I can even run that. And so then I might be able to cover a lot of that quite quickly, or if you're in a very niche industry. So this is a really important column to understand. And then understanding why you're not getting more of those impressions, you can add some of these other columns. So search lost impression share rank. So this is because of your ad rank. Again, you can hover over these columns and it gives you much more detail. But this ad rank is determined by the quality of your ads and the bid that you're willing to give, and various other factors like landing page experience and things, which is connected to quality score as well. So the other columns I really wanted to show you here was search lost impression share rank, and then search lost impression share budget. So rank is because you can see here, in this case, it says 28%. So we're losing 28% of the searches available because we're not bidding enough in terms of CPC, or the quality score is too low. And so Google doesn't like us. And so it makes everything more expensive and we can't cover it. Those are the main reasons really for the rank side of things, which is ad rank. And then we've got search lost impression share budget, which is really just, we're losing in this case 9% roughly, because we just don't have enough budget. Like if you think of something like someone typing in moisturizer for women, there is going to be millions of searches every day. So if I have £20 a day to spend, I of course can't even touch a fraction of those searches available. And so my budget is limiting me in that case. So these are the columns that are really helpful to understand. Click share is kind of just like another perspective. It's like, what share of clicks are you getting that are available? And then there is some other columns, but don't really worry about them too much. Bid strategy type, obviously, this just reminds you of what bidding strategy you're using, which is good to be aware of. But these are the main ones that I care about. I've got, like I said, a column preset, which I can send to you, which gives all of this much nicer structure. This account in particular has a pretty okay structure to it, but there's still some gaps. But like I said, with SaaS especially, it really does genuinely vary per account and per business on what are your metrics. But the important thing is that you are kind of showing that entire funnel from all the points of impression all the way through to actual purchase of your product. The last thing I want to show you is going down into keyword level, which is where these columns will actually change. So if we go down to keywords, so at this level, the columns which will be missing here, you can still get lots of the other ones I talked about. You can still add all of those conversion columns, which in this case I've not added yet to this, but we're going to not talk about that because we've covered it enough already. The ones that you need to make sure you do add, though, are connected to quality score. So quality score spectacularly is literally not even shown unless you add it, even though it's such a vital thing to understand within Google Ads to deliver good ads. So for example, if I'm trying to rank for any particular keyword, let's say I am Domino's Pizza and I'm trying to compete with Pizza Hut. If I run ads on the keyword Domino's Pizza, I will get 10 out of 10 quality score because I am the perfect search result for that user. Google knows that I am looking for Domino's Pizza. And if I am Domino's Pizza, my website domain is domino's.co.uk or .com. I've got everything about me is Domino's. And so Google knows that, and Google's happy to send people. And when Google does send people, they're clearly happy about it because they go and make purchases and do lots of things and don't just bounce away. So this is the best place to send someone. And so I'll likely have a 10 out of 10 quality score. The ad does also need to be made good though. So even Domino's could mess it up a little bit by making a really rubbish ad that just says, buy pizzas here and never references Domino's. That would make them slightly worse. And so they might get a 9 out of 10 in quality score. So whereas the other side of things might be, I might try and rank for Pizza Hut. So I am Domino's Pizza and I'm trying to take Pizza Hut's business. So people typing in Pizza Hut, Domino's will run my ad of like, buy Domino's Pizza on Pizza Hut searches. So in that case, I might get 3 out of 10 quality score, 2 out of 10, even 1 out of 10 quality score, because Google knows I am not Pizza Hut. It does know that I am pizza because I am Domino's, but it does know that I'm not the correct form of pizza that this particular person is looking for. And it knows that I'm trying to take some customers away. I'm trying to kind of circumvent the system a little bit here. So this is a really important thing to understand. And then how do you make that better? So you make it better by genuinely being right for that person's intention. You make it better by making the ad that they see be more relevant to them specifically. And then you make the landing page, the experience, be more relevant and accurate to them. So the title, all this SEO good stuff around the landing page, more accurate to that search. And then the actual experience they have as a customer, like, do they buy? Are they happy with you? And do they purchase, etc.? Do they not bounce away as soon as they get to your website? All of these things combined for quality score as a column. And it's a really important thing to understand and get used to. You can see that it gets broken down even by Google. So it tells you expected click-through rate from the ad that they're seeing. Do they like that ad? Do they click often on your ads? And there's a history version, which is previously, how did you do? And now, how are you doing? And the same for landing page. So how is your landing page doing? You see, it says below average in this case. Then we have ad relevance. So this is the ad part of it. So it says above average in many cases. So with this particular company we're working with, their landing pages are not doing very well. Their ads are doing very well. So we're working with them to improve on their landing pages at the moment. So these are some of the unique columns that you can only get at the keyword level that you do not want to miss out. So I wanted to finish with that. It's a really important addition to the rest of what we've talked about to not miss out on, to really deliver the best ads for your business. So like I say, I have a column, a spreadsheet, which I can send to you, which has the columns perfectly set out. It gives you even all those nice custom columns bits. If you would like that, send a message to me in the comments and I'm happy to reply. If you enjoyed this video as well, we are doing an entire series focused on SaaS Google Ads. So I'd encourage you to subscribe, and I'm going to do loads more of them, and hopefully you'll find some use in those too. If you've made it this far, thank you. I appreciate you for making my watch time stats a little bit better. Please do subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.